Hey, I'm Grant Babbitt.
And I'm Steven Farnsworth.
And you're listening to It's a Dad Thing podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of It's a Dad Thing podcast. Steven, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm coming down after the Christmas time here. How was Christmas time over your house?
It was great. It was honestly, it was very different, obviously with COVID stuff. But not traveling, we travel all the time for Christmas, and so Thanksgiving is normally our time to stay in LA, and Christmas we always travel. So it was really weird being like, okay, well, what do you want to do for Christmas Eve? And what do you want to do for Christmas Day? Because we're always used to having other families around, and we're kind of like, okay, what do we want to do as a group? And this time it was, Sarah and I looking at each other like, no, but I need to know, like, really, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't care. She's like, that's fine normally. Like, what are we doing?
So
how about you?
No sad Zoom calls in the corner of the room with family back home or any of that kind of stuff?
No, we did a couple FaceTimes, but no, I can't do that. I can't do the long, like, passerby thing. I don't know. It feels weird.
I know. I hear you. No, we talked about it last time. I just wanted to confirm that you stuck to your guns and you didn't. I didn't do it either. We didn't even FaceTime family on the day. Now, not because we don't love our family, because we do. We had one of those Christmas mornings that literally went on, no joke, all day. I'm sure you probably, I don't know how your family is compared to my family. I know, my wife and I, it was totally different, where she said that, in her household, they would wake up and mom and dad would be in bed, but the kids would go down and do their stockings right away. Right. They were like, I'm up, I'm going to it. Right. My house was not like that. My house was like, you wake up and mom and dad are like, whoa, stay in your room. Stay in your room or stay in our room. And when we're ready, you can come out. Right. We'll let you know. And so that's what I was always used to. So when my kids wake up, it's they know now, when you wake up, come into our room. And if we need to put on a Christmas movie or something because mom and dad are tired, we will. But this year we're okay, we're going to get up. We're getting up with them. We're going to we're not stalling. We'll get up and go. So we start 7 a.m. or something. I mean, that's not too bad, but the kids are up. They're ready to go. Right. And my wife and I made a terrible mistake. A terrible mistake. No, it was great. It was so much fun, Christmas. But we decided we were going to wrap every present individually, so they could wrap everything, so they could unwrap things, because unwrapping is so much fun.
Right.
But there's 4 kids and 2 adults, and when you wrap every little thing by itself, and you tell everybody to wait and watch that person instead of just okay, you 4 kids, open something, go.
Right.
It just went on forever. So it was just one of those things. And it again, it's not like the kids were just spoiled rotten or something. It was they just have so many gifts or anything. It was just we decided we were going to make
it's going to be great.
Yeah, we're
everybody's going to be able to open it, and we're going to be super excited for them. And then you get 5 gifts in, and you're like, wait.
Never turns out that way. Never.
So we did some. So now, do you guys wait? So everything, Christmas morning, stockings are there, presents are there. Wait for mom and dad before anybody can do anything, right? It's kind of how the vibe goes.
Yeah. We try to, because their room, when the door opens up, the room goes straight out into the living room. So we try to have them go to mom and dad's room, but it's always
did it
one
work?
of those, we're
or did others snuck in and try to get some stockings?
No, luckily Santa wrapped everything, so they couldn't tell what anything was from afar. So yes, they came in, and actually I heard my oldest son go you guys, let's go to mom and dad's room, and I was like,
great. Awesome. Love those oldest kids.
Way to go.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was great. What's funny is that 2020 has been a crazy year, obviously. And my whole thing, and my wife and I kept going back and forth, and part of it was we did our Christmas shopping so early because we're here and we're,
Yep.
I had wrapped on WandaVision. So I was like, oh, cool. Well, I'm working a little bit, like I'm doing the school thing, but I'm not at work 5 days a week, like a
Right.
lot of people are. So we're at home. So like if gifts come in the mail, we can wrap them and get them ready. So, it was one of these things like we thought we had everything planned out and all good. And then we found out that
Yep.
the problem is that if you do your Christmas shopping early, then you're like, oh, I think I still have time for like one more thing. And I think I still have one more time like for one more thing. And then you realize that like you kept getting these little things. At least that was our experience. I know it's not everybody's. I know everybody's experience, especially this year, is so different because there's so many people that have had the experience of like not being able to, to barely be able to give their kids anything for Christmas. And I understand that and I sympathize with that 100%. We were very lucky, very blessed with like being able to have, like I had a job that lasted for a few months right before the holidays. And I've never had that before. I've never been able to like treat my family. So we thought, you know what, I know this is a weird year. We've been stuck at home. Like I'm going to try to do the best I can and treat you guys. And so, yes, we did our best to spoil everybody, to have a good time, to, spoil my wife. And then we realized we're never doing that again. Like 1 or 2 gifts, that's it, in, out, Christmas morning, done. Because it was 7 p.m. and we took breaks through the day.
Oh my gosh. Wait, you started in the morning. You're talking 7 p.m. Christmas Day.
Yes.
Wow.
Because it was like, I don't know if you guys have any certain order, but in my family, it was always like, you'd start with small things, then you kind of get to the bigger. And then you got the gifts that came from other family members, whatever you open. Right. Yep. And then, like the big gifts, were at the end for mom and dad. And it was always the thing, like in our house, it was always like, oh, what's that thing behind the tree? Or, oh, I think I forgot something that caused it. Let me check, like that, which is always fun as a kid until you start to expect it. And then you realize you're a spoiled, rotten brat kid. No, I'm just kidding. But, it was like, we had a fun time. And then, of course, like we would take breaks. It was like, okay, we've been like, you guys have been trying to be patient and watching each other. But then I want to open this now and I want to do this now. And you're like, oh, okay, but there's still like some gifts to open there. There's still like, we need to eat lunch. We need this, like whatever. This sounds awful, but it was fun, but it was just like the longest Christmas I literally have ever had my entire life, because we tried to make it so special. We tried to make like everything happen. And then it was like just the longest thing. And now what I'm gonna do is if I get more gifts, if I get a lot of gifts, they're gonna go in one big bag and then just some tissue paper on top, and then boom, we're done. Because like
just Sharpie the name on it.
But like I'm talking like a set of books. Like let's say there's a set of 5 books, right? You can wrap 5 books in one, but we did the thing where it's like, let's wrap a book and then wrap the book 2 and then wrap book 3 and then wrap book 4 and then wrap book 5. And
wow, you guys really went all out. You guys went through tubes and tubes of Christmas wrapping.
But Steven, this is why you, my friend, are a planner. Okay. And when you have time, it's great because you can plan it out. Don't give me this much time. I'm not made for this.
You add more things to it. It's like, no, we don't need to add anything more. It's already planned. We're done. Yeah. Move on.
Yeah.
So for ours, growing up, it was kids could come down, but we couldn't open anything until we read the Christmas story. That was always so we had to drag, mom and dad out of bed. Come on, guys, come on. Like, let's do it. Let's read the Christmas story.
This is the one with the Red Ryder rifle and the pink bunny suit.
No, no. The from the Bible.
Oh, okay.
King James version from the great grandmother's Bible. This was the Christmas story. That's what we would get. And now like, and Sarah had a different experience where she actually opened some presents the night before on Christmas Eve. So what we did this year, which I wasn't sure how it was going to go, and I honestly like pushed back a little bit on Sarah's like, I don't know, but we opened all the gifts from mom and dad on Christmas Eve and from essentially other people. So the other people that live in our house and stuff. That was Christmas Eve, and then Christmas morning everything was from Santa. So that's stockings and then a couple of gifts.
Got it.
is all from Santa. So,
Got it.
and we did the thing where we didn't do the like each individual book, but we did the open one gift at a time as we go around the room. But honestly, it actually worked out really well. And I'm very surprised because I thought, like you, I was like, oh, this is going to take forever.
Yeah,
so we kind of sped up towards the end, like towards the second half. It was like just the kids had gifts, you know, like the adults were kind of like, okay, I opened my few gifts or whatever. And then it was like, why don't you open 2 gifts at a time? So we started doing that and kind of speeding things up. But yeah, it was a good Christmas. We had a great time. I mean, obviously there was no snow on the ground or any sign of holiday Christmas outside the home. Yeah. But we still had a Christmas tree and we had a great time. So overall it was really good family time.
That's great. I think next year you need to get a copy of, was it Christmas Story is the movie, right?
The Christmas Story.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say that's one of my favorite movies, and they play. I mean,
with the leg lamp, you know, like the
yeah. And then you'll shoot your eye out. Yeah, you got to get a copy of that book, and then your new tradition is to read that before the kids can open their presents, right? Is that no? Is it? It's like a.
I mean, technically, that's still reading the Christmas Story.
That's what I'm saying.
I probably
keep the tradition alive. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Look, that's what we're all doing. We're all just
all my family that are clergy would probably buy that if I said, and our kids, we read the Christmas Story every year.
Yeah. They don't have to know. No one will listen to this episode.
No, hopefully no one will ever ask them what's in the Christmas story.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, there's the kid gets the pink pajamas, right? And then
right.
What? Yeah, and then they sticks his tongue to the pole.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh fudge. Yeah.
so now, but like now we've done Christmas, right?
Yes.
And now this is our official end of 2020, season 1.
Yes.
Do you, now that we're in this in between of Christmas and New Year's, everyone's starting to kind of think, all right, we've finished this year. What are we going to do about next year? Do you do New Year's resolutions? Do you believe in them? Have you done them before?
Yes, I do. I mean, I do one every year. Every year. Do I believe in them? I believe in doing them. And then I figured that, I used to do it where it was like, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get in shape. Like all those like basic standard stuff where you're like, or when I was younger, I'm going to get a girlfriend this year. Like, like whatever it was going to be, that I would do those. Then I would just think, well, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, I mean, for me going forward, they never worked out because anytime it was working out, what'll happen is even at the time that I was actually like really working out on a regular basis, I remember I was working out on a regular basis, and then whatever my New Year's Eve thing from my resolution was, and I remember the gym being really busy in January, beginning of February, and then no one was there after that. And you're like, oh. And I just remember it being like, well, this is annoying. These are all just the people that are like, I'm going to get in shape for New Year's, and then they don't, which guilty. Okay, I've done that a million times.
Right, and now it's the Peloton bike. Now it's I see on the Instagram, Facebook, it's the people that got the Peloton bike, because now it's like, oh, I'm going to do this at home. So I'm curious to see in March if we're still hopping on that Peloton bike, Sure.
Well, I will say I got rid of that idea. Idea of New Year's Eve resolutions or New Year's resolutions. So for me, the new way of doing it has always been like, it's a way to better myself, but it's been in a sense of like, and maybe this is just because I become a dad and I'm not thinking about just myself anymore. But my New Year's resolutions have started to turn into more of like, I want to spend more time with my kids. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
But what happens is then coronavirus happens, and then you're quarantined with all of your kids in the house. And then you go, well, I guess my resolution came true. No, but really, I mean,
right. But not that much. Like we don't want that much time, we love them.
Right.
But there needs to be some separation.
Yeah. But I mean, so that's my New Year's resolutions is those type of things have been more of like, what's something that can bring more happiness or joy to me, instead of just like, I'm going to get a car. I'm going to like whatever those, like I try to not do that as much, because that definitely used to be me I gave up on trying to lose weight every year, so I don't try that one anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's more of just like trying to, what am I gonna do? Like, what is it related to my family? Do I want to pursue a new career? Do I want to, like I try to do those type of things
Hmm.
that are kind of more just like self betterment than, which is the idea of that in the first place. But
Right.
not hold myself accountable as much, but more just like, this is kind of like what I want to accomplish this year.
Okay.
Instead of saying like, I'm going to do this, and if I don't, it's broken. No, because that sets you up for failure. I try to say, this is what I'd like to do, and
Right.
how can I make that happen? So let's think about that for this year.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but I will ask you the same. What do you believe in New Year's resolutions? Are you
Yeah,
on board with them?
I used to do them all the time, and
Uh-huh.
I've moved away from them as the traditional way of doing them. In recent years, I've done uh, a one word theme for the year, which has actually
Okay.
been kind of nice. That one's easier to remember, and it's sort of kind of like what you were talking about, where it provides like framework, so instead of having like a goal that I'm tracking every single day and I'm writing down things and I'm doing the weight dumbbells thing and I gotta lose
Mm-hmm.
10 pounds every week or whatever. It's more of like you pick one word, you basically think for a few days and you're like, what would be one word that I want to remember throughout the year? And then it just that helps you kind of make decisions. So is it joy? Is it perseverance? Is it, like, what is that theme? And that's actually worked pretty well for me, because then it actually tracks to different thought processes.
Mm.
So it's like whether it's with your kids or your wife or your work, or like you kind of can go back to this theme, and that kind of helps shapes maybe some decisions that you make. So that has worked a lot better for me. um, but I will say that I am definitely a planner. So I eat all that stuff up. Like
Mm-hmm.
the planner that I have would make most people cry to fill out, because
Okay.
it's so much effort to fill it out, that Sarah just is like, I'm exhausted just watching you do this on a regular basis.
I believe you. I don't even like putting entries into the calendar on my iPhone, which is like right at my fingertips. Even when it says, "Do you want to add this to the calendar?" I don't know. Like
Uh,
I don't. I don't. That's not me. So that sounds awful. I'm glad you like it. You're weird. I don't get it, but I love you for it. I
yeah.
don't.
So
I just don't
right.
get it.
We're very opposite in that. And I
Yeah.
know you and I
Yeah.
love you for who you
Yeah.
are. And thankfully you love me for who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
Ah.
literally we do an annual strategic planning meeting. And somehow, again, my wife is a lot like you in that she doesn't like the planning so much. She's much better in the moment. And yesterday, we usually do it annually, and so it'll usually be like a few hours where we're just like at night or whatever, hey, let's talk about this past year, let's talk about what we want to do this next year. We were like, we have so many things that we want to talk about, and because we haven't like had a chance to go on dates anywhere, because we're in
Mhm.
LA, we haven't really gotten away, we haven't had that personal time, and we have people that live with us, so there's aspects that we don't really get that alone time. And so we were like, we need to dedicate a whole day. So thankfully, friends of ours that are out of town for Christmas said, well, you can come over to our house if you'd like. So we spent 12 hours yesterday with only breaks for lunch and dinner. And we spent working everything out, all the stuff that we want to do. I have like I had a big Sharpie. I had like the little, easel thing that you're doing the post-it notes. And for 12 hours, thank God Sarah still loves me and is still willing to be with me after that. Cause that was even brutal for my standards. That was a really long time.
I was gonna say that sounds like the best anniversary gift ever that she's given you, but I don't even know
Yes,
when your anniversary is. I just know like that sounds like a wonderful gift from her to
it
you.
is. Yes,
Yeah, wow.
there were moments throughout that she was like, I'm so done with this. I'm over it. I hate you. Just little
Hmm.
moments like that throughout that.
Hmm.
But she hung in there and she sticked with me, and we completed it. So
That's great. So I gotta tell you, I gotta ask, how did you break it down? Did you break it down daily, weekly, monthly, like seasonally? Like how would were you just like, here's this one thing we want to accomplish it in the first quarter of the year, and this, like how did you break
Yeah.
that down?
So I try not to in those kind of scenarios when with the time, I mean, we spent 12 hours, so time wasn't necessarily that limited, but typically it is very limited when you have kids and you don't have very much time. What
Yes.
I'm really focusing on is the vision, right? Because like
Okay.
I can take the vision and go away and set milestones. And I mean, that's what I do for a living. That's what I love to do in my own personal life, is like map out how do we make this happen. But what I can't do by myself is create the vision, right? Is create the, what do we want to do? So what we did is we had index cards and we would write out subjects that we wanted to talk about. And then we kind of split them up to where some of them overlapped. But we would just basically, I'd write at the top, here's the big subject we want to talk about, family goals. Okay, what are our family goals? We'd just write different stuff. Who cares? Like we can always mark it out. We can put, and then, but the things that we put up there is like, we would talk about, what are we going to do about kid finances? That's a big subject that we're talking about, because I'm going through this book called The Opposite of Spoiled. Highly recommend. But, and I was like, what are we going to do about kids allowance? Here's a couple options that I read in this book. What do you think, babe? Then we kind of did like back and forth. We wrote out some ideas. We like this one. We don't really like that one. Okay, great. So now I literally kept all the the big giant post-it things. So now
Mhm.
I'll take that and I'll go, okay, I can implement off of that. Now I know what we want to do with that. Not necessarily that it's like in January 15th, we're going to do this, but it's like, here's where we're trying to head or trying to go towards.
Mhm.
Now I can help map that out because that's my strong suit. And I can help remind us both, hey, this is what we discussed. This is where we want to go. Or even things like, hey, we want to, for us, like we want to sell one of our vehicles. It's like, okay, to sell our vehicle, what do we need? Just write what we need. Okay, great. Well, then I can figure out when we can do that and that makes sense, because I know that both of us are in agreement that we're going to do that thing. So that's really
Gotcha.
what I focus on, rather than by March 15th I really want to be spending an hour doing this. It's like, no, that's, you do that in your own time.
Okay.
These are family, like relationship goals. These are things that we do together, but they're more vision, so that I can then go on my own time and kind of map it out and do that additional work. But one
So
thing that I love, or go ahead.
no, I was just saying. I mean, I mean, I know you, and I'm sure I can guess some of the things that are probably on the list. But like, what? I mean, for some of our listeners, viewers, whatever. Like, what kind of things are you putting on that list? Like, if someone's listening to this and they want to say, "Oh, that sounds great," but
Mhm.
and I want to make a yearly plan, because I'm sure you're not the only one out there, Stephen. I know you're not the unicorn of planning. Like, there's
Right.
definitely other planners out there. Like, what would someone who's already a planner, or someone like me who's not a planner but thinks, you know what, that sounds like something that's good for our family, like what are
Yeah.
some of the things I can throw on that list, or like what are some of the things you guys have on the list that you can share
Mhm.
with us, that is just kind of like, hey, here's kind of what we're thinking, just so we can have
Yeah,
kind
and
of an idea what it is.
yeah, we kind of break it down to work and private life. So work is one thing, because I own my own business, so it is very integrated in what we do. Sarah runs a business as well, and we have to kind of figure out, okay, let's put our business owner hat on. Let's
Hmm.
talk about this. Let's talk about where we want to head with that, because that automatically flows into a lot of the personal decisions that we want to make as well. So, hey, what are our goals financially for these businesses and these things, so that we can now go do these other things. So then when we talk like family goals, then we talk about things like you break down kind of each child, and kind of what your goals are for them, right? And each kid is different, like, hey, so and so struggles with this, we want to be more patient with them on this, yeah, okay, we agree, let's do that. Okay, but this kid like really strives at doing this thing, like, oh, they love, like one of them was like, man, they really love building things, like they're
Hmm.
really really great at building things. Okay, well, what are other things that we can do to amplify that? Oh, okay, well, we can either get more Legos, or we can find other little maybe subscription things that where they can work on engineering stuff that's more STEM related,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then so again, you're not really necessarily going, here's the exact answer, but you're just identifying certain things that you want to do with each child. And then then you're kind of for us this year we have a big plan which I can't announce yet, but it's like you start to work out also other things. What are you going to do with the cars that you have? Are those going to last all year long? Are you going to still, be in the same house or rental, or are we staying with that? Am I moving jobs? Am I, you could talk about the bigger stuff as well, and then that all trickles down to the personal stuff. And that's where you had kind of mentioned, like, with yourself, that's something that I think is not really discussed necessarily a lot. We do reflect on things in 2020, and we kind of have like some questions that we want to ask each other. And I think that's where we started, which was really helpful. So if you do one of this process and you don't know where to start, one of the things that we've done and we did yesterday is like start off with some questions about 2020. And that kind of starts the subject, right? Like, hey, what did we like that we did this year? What are things that we didn't like? And then that kind of spurs the conversation on, well, I didn't really like that we did this or that we didn't do this. Can we put that on as a goal? Like, hey, we didn't really eat dinners as a family, and I wish we did that more,
Right.
and it's like, oh, okay, great. We had index cards. Great. Just write it on an index card and we'll talk about it. Not right this second, but we'll talk about it,
So did you get input from, I know you guys were by yourselves, but did you get input from the kids at all as far as like
No,
things that?
not on this one. This one is
Gotcha.
strictly just Sarah and I as the leaders of the family going, here's where we want to set the bigger goals. And then it trickles down. So like with for instance, the allowance, we were trying to decide, hey, do we do a weekly allowance, where the kids get money? We have chores that they do. Do we tie it to chores? Do we not do a weekly allowance and it's more like project based, where it's like, okay, go do this, rake the leaves, mow the grass, and then we set a dollar amount for that. Like, we talked through what do we want to do and what are the kind of pros and cons of those things, because we're getting to that older kid age that we want to make sure that they know about finances. And it's a big thing for us to make sure that when they do graduate from our home, that they know the basics of finance. So we kind of talked through that, and then we took that. And that kind of stems from, I know that was something I wanted to talk about because I had a book, right? I'd actually read a book, which I don't read very often, but
by the way, speaking of, and I will just share, because you're talking about allowance, we don't necessarily do an allowance at all at our house, but what we have done is we've incentivized reading. So one of the best things I think we've probably ever done, like one of the best investments you're going to probably do as a parent, was what we learned about, what we decided we're going to do, is we started doing a per book dollar amount. So we basically told our son, who's in second grade, our oldest one, hey, we're going to give you $1 for every chapter book you read. And we did not know he was going to fly through every chapter book. I mean, like, literally, he read, like, I don't know if you guys familiar with the Humphrey series over at your house.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Humphrey. Yeah. Okay, so it's like the hamster. It's a little hamster Humphrey series. We had heard about it. We had, like, one of his cousins was like, "Oh yeah, it's really great." We sent him one of the books in the series. Yeah. We're like, "Okay, well, let's find the first one. Let's see if he likes it." He read all 13 of those books. And now has moved on to Lemony Snicket's, like the unfortunate events of Lemony Snicket. So now, and like we literally got those books, like a pack. Like, my wife got the pack of those books. I think it's like 14 in a series or something for that. Yeah. And she was like, "Well, I'll give him one book, and then, like, we have all of the rest of these books, and you can open them through, like, for Christmas." Sure. And this was like a week before Christmas or something, week and a half, 2 weeks or something like. I mean, not long. Right. And like, he's already on book 5. Like, my wife's like, "Well, he knows about all the books now. Just forget it. We're not going to give him those as gifts." Like, he's just. But the great thing is like, at the end of 20 books, the kids made $20. And as a 7-year-old, you're like, "I got $20. This is awesome." But as a parent, you're like, "You just read 20 chapter books." Like, you don't realize what they've done. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And the mornings are so much quieter because we'll wake up and you're just like, why do I only hear a couple of the kids? Well, because one of the kids is literally sitting there in the middle of them playing, reading his book. And she's like, "Can I go read?" And you're like, "Yes, of course you can go read." Yeah. So yes, not to interrupt not to interrupt what you guys are talking about. I think that's a great plan. But just to throw out an idea there, we use that as far as like an allowance-based thing, and it seems to have worked very well. We keep, and if you don't want to
Great.
give like $1 each time, you want to give like a lump sum at the end of a certain time,
Right.
we made a chart and we write down what the book is, and then we have a little square and check it off when they're done
Yep.
reading. I mean, it's great. My wife has set it all up, and it's awesome. So yeah, there's another idea out there. So if you you know, I know there's lots of different controversies when it comes to with allowances, or
Right.
there's, everybody has different thoughts on it, but that's at least something we've used and it's worked well for us. So,
And the biggest thing that I have as a parent is that there's no judgment in how each parent operates.
mhm.
My only, I would say with that, my only frustration is you have to do it with intentionality. Like
Sure.
what you guys are doing. Hey, we're writing a list, like we got them some books, like we're lining this up to like be intentional about it, right? It's
Mhm.
not just like a flip it, like you didn't actually, like you got to think about what you're doing, because that's half the battle, is like
Right.
you got to think about what you and Ashley feel about finances and then incorporate that in what you're doing. Because what's so hard is with parenting, you get thrown so many things at you at once, and then you have to like, like our daughter is 10, and it's like every month she's getting older, we're having to have new conversations about like crap that I've never thought about, where it's like,
Sure.
it's like, well, how do we feel about her with her iPad, or how do we feel about her, I don't know, whatever it is. But it's like discussions that you're like, oh my God, I've never even thought about this. Like with the younger ones, it's like, okay, we've kind of messed up with the oldest one a little bit. We've kind of
Yeah.
like,
A lot. Yeah.
kind of smoothed some rough edges, and we think
Mhm.
we have a plan now, and because that's like our thing, is that like I thankfully in this book, it was not I was a little worried it's going to be a book like basically telling you here's what you have to do and here's the 5 steps and all that. But it actually was much better, because it was basically here's a curated like group of people that have discussed different things. So it was more of hey, here's how one couple did it in Arkansas, and here's how another couple did it in Connecticut. And it was like opposite views, and so it
Mhm.
kind of helped you go, okay, one is not bad and one is not good. It's just, how do we feel about it? And what do we want to
Right.
talk about? And so that's where we circle back to that annual meeting, because it's like, as much, again, you're not going to cover every subject. Don't beat yourself up. You're probably only going to cover 4 or 5 subjects. But the big thing is that just the ones that are on your heart, the ones that you're thinking about, like talk about those, talk with your
Mhm.
spouse, and help yourself know, like, where do I want to go with this? Because you're going to mess up. Like you're going to
Sure.
mess up as a parent. We're going to like, for us all the time, it's like, we forget the tooth fairy. Like that's, I don't know why, but like that's a constant, like tooth fairy just doesn't show up, so we constantly
Mhm.
have to have some kind of reason why, or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's like, as a parent, you just constantly get things thrown at you. One of the things that I think I would say, going back to the annual thing, is like
Yeah.
the questions to ask yourself. What I love is that Zach Winters, who's been on our podcast, awesome dude,
Yeah.
musician, amazing. Zach Winters again.com. Go check out his stuff.
And
He actually just,
if you haven't heard that episode, go back and check it out, because it's a lot of great
yes,
stuff in
yeah,
there.
a lot of good stuff. He's a dad as well, and he actually he's a full-time musician, and he does these things each year where he does 20 thought-provoking questions, and we answered a lot of them. Like we did a lot of them just chatting back and forth and seeing where the conversation led, and trying to be okay with not a solid answer at
Mhm.
first, and be okay to sit there in the uncomfortable, like, I'm not sure how to answer this question. But it helped at least to have a starting point. So that was a big shout out to Zach for, thank you
Yeah.
for putting that together. And that was a big part of our stuff yesterday.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it honestly sounds like something I want to sit with Ashley and do. Not to the extent that you did it. 12 hours, nope, not going to happen. But I mean, like, reevaluating what we're looking for a year going forward. I mean, you're talking about Zach's list. Do you have I mean, do you have like some example questions or anything that
Yeah,
you want to?
I have a few questions that we can kind of either discuss or we can kind of just kind of talk about a little bit. But first one is like, what's something you can do every day to help yourself stay spiritually alive? And this one is not necessarily, I grew up evangelical. I think you're the same. And
Nope.
so, but it okay.
Nope.
But it's a way to be, it's not specific to a, are you, it's just spirituality. How can you do
Hmm.
something every day to help yourself kind of stay spiritually alive, or even necessarily alive aware, right?
Hmm.
Because that can be a big part of it as well.
No, you said you were raised evangelical. We were raised the CNE. It was a Christmas and Easter.
Ah,
Right. That was, I mean, like, not as a bad thing. Cause my parents were always
yeah,
very spiritual but
sure.
I also went through a, pretty big period where I was just like, I don't know, like I've had lots of ups and downs with so, yes, for you, is that a question that like, you're able to go like, oh yeah, I mean, that's easy for me to answer, or does that still take you some thought? Like, does it really like challenge you and question your beliefs there? I mean,
It used to, this one was pretty quick for me this year because
okay.
I've actually implemented meditation in the mornings.
Oh, that's great.
So that one, it's a 10-minute meditation. You can do the Calm app, which I highly recommend, or they
Yeah.
even have free ones on YouTube that you can do as well. But that one was a pretty easy one for me this year because I committed to that during the pandemic of like, I'm gonna go crazy because again, I'm a planner, and
Mhm.
during 2020 you can't plan a darn thing. And I was like, I need something every morning to give me some kind of like calmness, some kind of inward like contentment. And that's
Yeah.
where I turned to meditation. So that was what my answer
Gotcha.
was.
Okay. Yeah, I mean for me, that's a very heavy question. I
Mhm.
would have to take, because for me, like, there's a big difference between religious and spirituality, but I mean, you want to look at that, and we're not this is not what we're talking about, but this is what we're talking about, right? Taking these
Mhm.
questions and breaking them
Yeah.
down and kind of reevaluate. And, I think that is a really great, I mean, man, for 20 questions, for that to be one of the first ones, that's a tough
And it's
starting point.
okay to sit in that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's okay. And it's even okay to be like, can we come back to that? Like, I'm going to put some
Mhm.
thought into that. Like, I think that's part of it, with your spouse or whoever you do this annual kind of thing with. And that's why I try to keep kids out of this one. Unless, maybe I change my mind when they become teenagers and they're a lot older, but like, I'm
Mhm.
not going to ask my 8-year-old, like, what do you do every day spiritually?
Sure.
That's not, these are more like the parent kind of questions. Like another one is, what is a big picture goals, or dream that you made progress on this past year?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's, let's see. You got an answer to yours?
I want to hear yours. I answered the last one.
All right. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. What was it? What is a big picture? Okay. Let me see it here. What is it? A
Goal
big
or
picture
dream
goal.
that you made progress on this past year. So it's reflective. So this isn't like next year. This is looking back at the past year. What's something that you've actually made progress on?
Okay. So for me, I mean, obviously the pandemic and everything that's happened with it has been thrown a huge wrench in what, we all know is like normal, right? So for
Mhm.
me though, one of the big picture goal. Yeah. I mean, honestly, one of the things I've always talked about, and I've been freelance for so long. I mean, since my daughter was born, right before she was born, I went freelance, and I haven't been not freelance since. And now she's gonna turn 6 in March. So it's been almost 6 full years that I've been
Yeah.
straight freelance, like for the second or third time, but like, in this one big chunk. And it's been one of those things, and I know we've talked about this in episodes before, but like the work-life balance of like,
Hmm.
as a freelancer, I spend all my time wanting to get work, and then when I get work, I spend all my time wanting to be home with my kids, right?
Yes.
And then I get back home with the kids, and then I go, okay, now I got to figure out where's the work coming from
Hmm.
again. So for
Right.
me, and we joked about it earlier too, but wanting to spend more time with my kids,
Yeah.
I got that. And, that was one of the things like this, for all the crazy and horrible, awful things that have come from COVID and the pandemic and just like all the hurt and stuff that's happened,
Hmm.
one of the things that really has happened that's been a positive side effect of all this. For a big picture, a dream I always had was wanted to do was I wanted to spend more time with my family. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to do that in way more of a level than I ever thought I was going to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, reflectively looking at it, like it may not seem like a big deal to a lot of people, but I mean, us dads out here, we know what this is like. You know what it's like to be at
Right.
work and want to go home and spend time with your kids. So to be able to wake up, be with your kids, and then go to work in my room and be on the computer was like crazy, because then I don't have a commute that I'm taking time away
Mm-hmm.
from my family.
Right.
Um, I mean, I don't know if that answers it as correctly as it should be, but
Well, that's the thing. It's not, there's no right answer. There's no wrong
okay.
answer. And it's really, it's thought provoking, right? It's just to get you to talk about it. And what the
Mhm.
point of it is the other person, your spouse or whoever it's better to do this with two people. So if
Yeah.
you can, even if you're single, find a great friend you can do this with. Because where the magic happens from doing this is the back and forth.
Mm.
So it's not just in like, I read questions and I journaled about what they were. It's really about someone that knows you and can speak some life into you and be like, yeah, I've really seen that in that. What has that, like, for me, a follow-up question would be like, well, what did you do with that time? Right. Cause it's like, there's one thing to like just be around, like, and that's what we've talked about in work-life balance is like, I'm here, but are you really here? And it's like,
Right.
okay, well, due to COVID and work and stuff, you got the chance and the opportunity to have more time with them. So my follow-up question would be like, what did you do about that? And that's where you can go into more like, then you kind of speak out loud, and then you can kind of, and as a planner, you can reverse engineer that. So then based off those questions, what I would hear you say, we would try to figure out how to do that more in 2021.
Gotcha.
Because you would start to tell me what you enjoy or what you found rewarding. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
I'm
and it's
I'm
kind of a
already going
weird,
over it in my head.
yeah,
I'm already
it's
like, oh yeah,
crazy.
okay, good call. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, just one part of the many things that are going over in my head right now, but it's like I realize that I don't like being on the phone anymore.
Hmm.
Which may sound weird because I know when we diddle around on our phone all day,
Yeah.
especially when we're on set or whatever. Like
Right.
you're constantly. I realize when you go to the bathroom a lot of times, and like even when you're standing there, too much information. You stand there to pee, right? And you just
Right.
realize, gosh, I have like 30 seconds of free time. Maybe I'll get my phone out and look at something. Right? I mean, like that's a
I've been
problem.
there. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
been
but you
there.
know exactly what I'm talking about. When you have
Yeah.
30 seconds, you're like, well, I'll get my phone out. Well, I realized that like me being a better dad and being present with my kids is not just like here in the same room. I realized that like I'm going to miss a lot of phone calls and I'm going to miss a lot of text, and I'm not going to get back to conversations for a few days,
Yeah.
because what I'm doing is like I'm home with my kids, and I've realized if I just put the phone on a table on a charger and I go lay on the floor, next thing you know, I have 3, 4 kids on top of me playing, and we're just being creative and doing crazy stuff. Now,
Yeah.
we may get into fights or whatever. They may fight, and I have
Sure.
self to parent. But I've noticed that like if I just put the phone down, which is just not something I'm used to doing, if I just put the
Yeah.
phone down and like kind of check out, there's so much time and so much like energy with the kids that is so direct and with them,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
one-on-ones, even with a house full of people. Like I get
Right.
one-on-ones here or there, and so yeah, I mean
Right.
that
And
yeah,
that's where
this is very interesting. Yeah.
I would take that answer and I would go, great. So I would write it real down real quick on a post-it or whatever you want to put it on. 2021, we're going to find out a way to do more time where your phone is put down. Okay,
Got
well,
it.
then what the whole meeting's about. You can let that lie because you can figure out how to actually get that done throughout the year, right? There's apps,
Mm-hmm.
there's putting your phone in the bedroom. There's all kinds of like tips and tricks. Don't get hung up on that stuff. All
Yeah.
you're trying to decide is what are the big things that we want to do. Like, so the next one, I just picked 3. I like this one a lot too, is
All right.
name 3 people that you want to mentor, love, give to, or encourage more intentionally this year. So it's kind of a convoluted question, but basically, what are some people that you want to either mentor or love on or give things to or encourage intentionally this year? You don't have to actually answer the
Hmm.
people this time, but like,
Hmm. Okay. No, these are great. I mean, there really is. I mean, you're right. Yes, I don't have to answer because unfortunately you wouldn't be on my list even. But sorry, you would have been the
That was
fourth
why
person.
I put this question on there.
You would have been the
Okay,
fourth
so we'll
person.
name 4 people. That's what the question actually says.
You know what? I just thought of another one. You would have been the 5th person, but you just barely missed the cut. No, that's a very fun exercise. And also, I say it's a fun exercise. It may not be fun. It may be challenging. Right. Just like I said, like that first question for me, not fun. My first question for me, that's challenge. That is like, I got to think about it. I really got to think about what does that even mean to me, right? Before I can ever answer. Because as soon as you asked that, my answer was pass. What's the next one?
Right.
But that being said, like, I do think like if 2020 hasn't been a year that we haven't all sat at some point and just reflected on what it means to be where we are, who we are, when we are, like, I don't know what you're doing with this year, because like if you haven't had just 5 minutes to like really focus on what this year has been and what it means to your life and reevaluate some aspect of your life, then this will be a great way to sit and do it, and to do it with a partner or a friend or a family member or whatever. Like that's it seems like, yes, that'd be a challenge, but that does seem very worthwhile. So yeah, that's shout out to Zach. That's great. We might have to have him on again, and we'll just play this game with him.
That's true. Maybe we come up with questions.
Yes, and then he'll have to say nice things about us, and then you'll have to say nice things about me. I won't say any nice things, but we're all used to that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, no, that's good. That sounds fun. That's cool. So, well, cool, very cool. I like that. So, man, all right. Who's your 3? Am I on your list?
I can't say.
Shut up.
I can't say. I signed an NDA.
What? With who? With who? There is no NDA in It's a Dad Thing podcast.
No, because the part of that though is that you can't. It's not necessarily that you just go out and tell that person. You're not like, hey, Grant, I'm mentoring you this year, or I'm giving you love. That's weird, right?
No,
it's like this.
No, because I tell my kids those same things every day, and they've never said it's weird. I say, look, I'm mentoring you. I'm giving you love. Accept it. And they just have to listen to me. That's fine. They're fine with it. That's not weird.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe it's a little weird. All right. So Steven, all right. So first of all, I want to bring something before we move on to the next thing. So a quick timeline recap of 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been crazy. It's obviously, but also, you and I started a podcast in the year of COVID-19. So technically our podcast was born after COVID-19 was born. Well, we didn't know that yet, right?
We didn't know it, yeah.
We didn't know that yet. We started this back in January of 2020. This is something that Steve and I have been talking about. And I don't know if you've heard our episodes before. We've touched on this, various aspects various times. But, Steve and I have talked about doing a show like this, whether it was a YouTube series or something, right, for many years.
Yes.
And finally are doing this. And this is the, 15th episode? 14th episode. I'm not good at math, but either way, right? This is a 14th episode, and the fact that we've got 14 episodes in a 12-month calendar year, at least we've got one episode and a couple bonus ones throughout the month, even though there was a big break in there. But let's look at our timeline. Okay, let's just break down the timeline every year. We started in January, riding on a high note. We were ready to start this show, to push it forward. You and I met in your garage and recorded, right? We had a couple solid episodes right off the bat. Yep. And then for us, look, here's one of the things that really kicked off 2020 and what happened, the death of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Right. So we had started this show, and then immediately there is Kobe Bryant and the death of his daughter, Gigi, and the other individuals that were in the helicopter accident. It was a horrific thing. For us here in LA, it was a huge impact. I mean, it was a huge impact all around the world, especially for anybody who's an NBA fan, anybody basketball fan, really just a fan of someone who is a great father figure, a great leader. So, I mean, it's a really horrible, tragic thing that happened. And, at that same time, for me, I had also lost our family dog that I had had for 15 years. So for
Yeah.
us, right off the bat, we started our show with, "Hey, here's his dad show," and then we immediately started with dealing with loss.
Yeah.
And man, I know you and
Yeah.
I, that was tough to get through, tough to talk about, and a tough
Mhm.
subject to really like kick off a podcast about parenting.
Yeah.
But man, I will have to say, I wouldn't want to be doing this show with anybody else. Maybe,
Agreed.
maybe someone that was a little better looking, but it's most of it's
Huh.
audio,
Yeah.
so it's
I'll take
fine.
that. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can hear your sexy voice. They don't have to see
Yeah.
your semi-sexy face. So anyway, no, I'm kidding. You're a gorgeous man. Anyway, no, what I'm saying really is that, we started the show. It was a challenge from the beginning.
Yeah.
We obviously are two working dads. You then went off to go to Detroit to work
Mhm.
in Detroit. I
Yes.
was here, and we started doing this Zoom remote type of like
Yeah.
podcasting from the beginning. So we were kind
Yep.
of ahead of the curve when coronavirus happened. But yeah, of course, then after that, you went to Detroit. Then I have the birth of my son
Yeah.
in the middle of COVID, literally days after lockdown lifts here. So it's just been a crazy time.
And we
of
had
course, there
another
was
Jordan, another podcast interview.
that's right,
Also had a baby during COVID.
two Jordans. Both
Yeah.
Jordans had babies.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that's right. Shout out
Wow.
both Jordans.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is. I mean, it's been a crazy year. I've got a neighbor that just moved. They have a baby coming, and it's just just thinking about all of this stuff and all the people, all the new babies that are coming this year. Normally, it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, that's so exciting, but now it's like, this is so different. Like this is
Yes.
any of the new parents. This isn't how it normally is. Like this is so different.
I know.
But yeah, it's been one of those crazy years. And then you were gone for a while, then I was gone for a while, and we just
Mhm.
we're back. We're here.
We're back. Yeah.
We're trying to round out this year. I know this has been a hard year for a lot of people. It's been a really tough year for a lot of people, but
Mhm.
I just want to personally say thank you to all of you that are listening. All
Yes.
5 of you. I will write you personal thank you notes for subscribing. I really appreciate it. No, I
Shout
really
out to
do.
my grandma, by the way.
Shout out to Steven's grandma. Thank you for sticking it out.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you listening.
Thanks for hanging in there, Grandma.
Even with all those naughty words we were saying. No, I appreciate it. No, but really, thank you, everybody who's listened to us this first season. It's really
Well, and the big news this year, what we just learned, I think, in the last couple of weeks was not only is this our 14th episode for the year. Yeah, we had a lull, COVID, all that kind of stuff. We found a way to still get episodes out and still keep working through this. Our dream, this is one of our dreams that we've made progress on. Actually got episodes out. People actually listen to them. But we just found out that we hit 1,000 unique downloads. Massive news for us.
Yes.
We're so incredibly grateful that 1,000 people actually thought of downloading this and listening to it. And I'm incredibly overwhelmed, to be honest, and grateful that we've hit that in our first year and we're just getting started.
Absolutely. For just being a couple of dads trying to work and get by and provide for families and like do this on the side and have fun and honestly talk to one another, but really share and try to connect with other dads out there. And if we can give any kind of help out there and to know that if we've helped anyone, man, it's an awesome feeling and we appreciate you listening. Please keep listening, keep subscribing, share it with any other dads, and hopefully like 2020 and 21. Whoa, there was a lot of 20s in that. Hopefully I'll edit that out. Hopefully 2021, right? Hopefully a year from now, we'll be discussing again that we've, grown even larger. So hopefully not in belt size, but in podcast audience size. But yeah, just thank you to everybody out there. Thank you so much for listening. And I really can't thank you enough for any of you that have taken the time to listen to these episodes, and it's awesome. So yeah, so shout out.
Well, and I think, and also like, this being the last one of 2020, we're going to put some stuff out on social media of some of our favorite shows, favorite movies, favorite kid movies that we've seen, those kind of like list things together, if you still have some time off or whatever, depending on your work schedules, to watch some movies with the kids or TV shows or stuff. We want to put some of that out there. Cause we talked about earlier, I feel like we're living in the golden age of narrative. There's so many amazing movies and TV shows and stuff coming out that I'm like itching. I keep telling my wife like almost every day, I'm like, okay, when can we watch Soul? I want to watch Soul. Like, I'm like a little kid. I'm like, but I want to watch Soul. I really like, and I made my family watch Onward twice because we watched it earlier this year. And I was like, I want to watch Onward. And I watched half of it by myself. And I was like, because I'm like, no, I really, really like this movie. And so now I want to watch Soul. So I'm like a little kid at Christmas time, like, all I want is to watch Soul as a family.
I know my kids like Onward. And it's great. I love it. I love that it's Chris Pratt and Tom Holland also, because they're also in that Marvel Cinematic Universe. So speaking of, make sure if you don't know about it already, check out WandaVision. It's going to be on Disney Plus. By the way, they're not paying me for this, not anymore. I'm off the clock with them, but I worked really hard on it. So please, if you have some time, if you haven't heard about it already, go check out WandaVision. It's coming out January 15th on Disney Plus. It is going to be unique. It's going to be different, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you like Marvel, if you like Chris Pratt, if you like Tom Holland, I can't even say if they're in it or not. Golly. But anyway, if you like Marvel, if you like that stuff, check it out. It's so much fun. God, I just can't say anything about anything.
I'm almost like I'm trying to hit the bleep button, not because you're saying anything like a cuss word or anything, just because I'm like, there's an NDA, there's like an NDA beep button.
Yeah, no, this is you mentoring me without telling me you're mentoring me. You're trying to stop me from messing up. I get it. No, I appreciate it. Well, let's do this before we get out of here. So I do want to get those lists together. Do you want to talk about some of those shows, or should we save that for social media?
I'll just touch on a few of them.
Okay.
So for me, best content 2020, this is more of like for the parents out there.
Yeah.
TikTok. I know you think it's like a 16-year-old girl app, but there are some funny stuff on TikTok.
Okay.
I recommend you download it and give up your information to the Chinese or whatever it ends up being. But but it's funny. Now, for shows, there's a few different ones. Queen's Gambit, excellent show.
I haven't seen that yet.
Beautifully shot, really great story. Very unusual story about chess. I mean, that's not a spoiler or anything, but it's about chess. Made me actually start playing chess with my kids. Flight Attendant, not going to tell you much about that show, except it was not what I expected. And we watched 6 episodes in one night. We stayed up till almost 2 a.m. to do that. Everyone remembers Tiger King, I'm sure. Tiger King was just like a phenomenon. So if you haven't seen it yet, give yourself a nice little treat in the afternoon and watch that firestorm.
Okay, wait. Did Carol Baskins, did she do it or did she not do it?
I think she did it. Well, that's a spoiler. That's a spoiler.
Okay, fine. But
if they haven't seen it by now, then like, come on, right? Like,
it's
or haven't heard about it, right?
Yeah. Okay, wait, but last question too. Do you think, oh man, now I'm blanking on his name. Who's the Tiger King? What's his name? Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic, yeah.
Do you think Joe Exotic will be pardoned?
Oh man, I hope so.
Oh, I do too.
Hope so. I hope so. That would be like a nice little New Year's gift for me.
I read that on a list of possible pardons before January 20th, and I was like, okay, all right, this is a good conversation starter.
I'm in. Is there a petition we can start? Like, because I feel like that would really go. That would catch on.
Oh yeah, if it had,
pardon him. Like, get him back out in the world. We want more. Like, I want season 2. Like, put him out there. Give him some tigers.
It's no longer legal to own tigers in Oklahoma. They changed the law.
My great state of Oklahoma.
I know.
Shining in early 2020.
I know.
Okay, but then some best family movies. Yes. I'm sure Soul is because
wait, hold on. Before you do that, some of my best content. Okay. Because same thing. But so one is The Undoing on HBO. It's a miniseries. Okay. If you haven't seen it, it's very good.
All right, I'll add that.
The Undoing. Here's another one too. If you haven't seen it already yet, I think this is getting a lot of Oscar buzz too. There is a former student of mine that is in. It's in Chadwick Boseman's very last film.
Okay.
It's called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. It is a Netflix original film. It's getting a ton of buzz right now, and it just came out. I want to say it's December 12th is when it came out. But a former student of mine, I guess Dusan Brown is phenomenal. He is phenomenal. He acts in it. He's performing.
That's awesome.
I mean, he rocks it out. And, not to mention he's in this cast of like just amazing people, and he is holding his own and he is rocking it out. I'm so proud of him. So stoked.
That's awesome.
So yes, if you get a chance to check it out, please do. And look for Dusan. He is phenomenal in it. So yes, check that out. Okay. So yes, had to share those now.
Yeah.
Let's do. Oh, and if you haven't seen it, if you're not caught up on Schitt's Creek, Schitt's Creek. I mean, this is such,
they finished the series off incredibly.
It's so well done. It's so well done. And if any of you haven't seen it, and if you decide like, oh, I've heard about this or whatever, I'm telling you, there is so much stuff out there that is like The Undoing, like these shows where we mentioned, we're like, oh yeah, there's so much drama and so much like, murder, mystery, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. This is just one of those shows that if you feel crummy or you're having a hard time and you just want to feel good, like just turn on Schitt's Creek. You will fly through it. Like I honestly didn't want to sit down and watch it because I was afraid if I start this episode, I'm going to get through 8 episodes. I just wanted to watch for 20 minutes, but I can't. So yes, it is such a good show. So well done. It's Dan Levy and his dad, Eugene Levy, which if you don't know them by now, Eugene Levy is a legend in comedy. A Mighty Wind, Dog, Best in Show. I mean, so much. American Pie. Like he's been in so much stuff. He's a legend. And this is a father-son team. And actually the sister is also in the show, but they run the waitress. Show. Yes. And it's just so well done. It was this small show in Canada that had just started picking up steam. And in the last few years, people have really noticed it. And I don't know if any of you watched the Emmys this year, the, remote televised Emmys, but they literally won the first 7 in all categories that you could in comedy. It was amazing. Well deserved. And yes, father-son team. So, you gotta check it out for that too. It's just, I couldn't imagine being able to do something like that with my son someday. It's great.
Oh, it would be awesome. And 2 others that I wanted to mention. One sports one, The Last Dance. Oh yeah. Incredible. Yeah. It was perfect timing, getting some Jordan content back in there. And then another sports show that caught me off guard in a great way was Ted Lasso. I thought it was a movie at first, and it's actually a show, which was even better. Funny, sarcastic, what's the guy? Oh my God, I can't think of the
Jason Sudeikis.
Yes. So if you're a fan of Jason Sudeikis, this is right up your alley. It's exactly the type of humor you're expecting. It's great.
I haven't seen the show yet. I've heard such wonderful things. I watched the trailer and I just remember thinking like, okay, that looks like that could be funny. But there was nothing that was like, wow, this looks great. And now I've just heard so much good stuff from people. And, fun fact, Jason Sudeikis went to the same high school as I did. Actually, Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, both went to my high school. So when I talk to people, I say like, oh yeah, there has been like 3 famous people who went to my school. People are like, oh, who? And I'm like, oh, Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, and myself. That
little humble brag.
Joke kills every time. No, but really, the also KU grad. So so you gotta throw it there. I'm my Jayhawk proud. But I've heard great stuff. So I'm excited to actually sit down and watch that. So yeah, very good. Okay, all right. Yeah. Family movies, family content. Let's go.
Family movies.
What are you watching?
So I haven't seen Soul, but I'm guessing that it's everything that everyone's telling me. That it's great. One that I want to see, but I haven't seen as well is Over the Moon. That one's about it's set in China, or it's a Chinese family or something, but looks really great. It looks like a very interesting movie. A few that I have seen that I absolutely love. Onward was a great movie. We talked about that one already. Yep. A beautiful brother-father story, family, but not like crazy drama, but just like a really solid movie.
It's Pixar. It's they do just enough to make you laugh and cry, and you just like, it's so good. So good.
Hamilton. I absolutely love the Hamilton live. I haven't seen Hamilton. Great. Our kids listened to the soundtrack. They were jamming for like 6-7 months of the year. It was like number one of what we were listening to.
Okay, wait. So Hamilton, we sat down to we're going to try to watch this. I know it's really long, right? Because it's like the full play performance. But we figured if we watch it, at least to intermission or something like that, we can watch it, and we'll watch it with the kids, because we've just, again, another one of those things you've heard so much about. but
Right.
we have 7, 5, 3, newborn, and we're like,
Right.
we turned it on after hearing like how wonderful it is, and then it said it was PG-13,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, but I haven't looked into it more. But I just was like, oh, PG-13, like, I mean,
There's a
we're
few
trying.
curse words.
Okay,
There's a few
but
curse words, and there's one song that we had to have a discussion with our 10-year-old of like, because she really liked the song, and you're like, you know what the song's about?
okay,
And she said yes, because her best friend loves Hamilton.
yeah,
So they had talked about it, and I was like, okay, cool. Do you want like, and Sarah had talked to her a little bit more about it or whatever. So it is a little bit more of like a, not a younger crowd. Like I would say not really 8 and under. Not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's not like it's not Onward or a Pixar movie where you're just kind of like,
yeah.
yeah, it's fine. There's no,
But it also too just depends on, I'm sure, what your family, your family,
family dynamic.
So
Yes.
whatever you judge is acceptable or not.
Correct.
It's just a matter of like, I tend to be, between my wife and I when it comes to watching stuff, there are things where I tend to be like really loose on, and I'm like, oh, this is totally fine, and maybe she's not. And then I realized that reverse side, and I thought, no way, she's way more conservative about this stuff than I am. And then I realized like she'll watch something with them, and I'm like, really, you're watching that with them?
Right.
So,
right.
oh, it's definitely not just you.
It's a constant conversation.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure but you want to check it out, I would highly recommend listening to the soundtrack, because that's where, I mean, that's obviously it's a musical, so there's not much else that happens outside of those, so you can kind of get a taste of what you're listening to. And then, but they don't hold back, and they they hold back. Like there's a few F words that I think that were in the original, and I think Lin-Manuel or whoever, that he was like, hey, I want to make sure it's PG-13 so most kids can see it, meaning like teenagers and whatnot. So they took a couple things out, but for the most part it's the same. But another one I want to see is Doolittle. And I can't believe when I was looking this up, it actually came out like super early in this year. And it was marked as one of the movies that I was like, oh, love Robert Downey Jr. It's about animals, huge animal lover. I was like, oh, this is a movie for me. And I just completely forgot about it. So now it's back on the list of like, okay, I got to watch it. And then Sonic the Hedgehog. Did you see that one?
I haven't seen that one yet. You know what? Is it? Okay, because I remember seeing the initial, like, what is it? The initial art or the trailer or whatever it was, and you had that like really crazy, like very poorly done Sonic before they redid it. And I just remember thinking like, okay, I'm usually not real hard on like movies for that type of stuff.
Right.
But that first Sonic was pretty rough. I mean, it was like,
it was rough.
This
one was good. They fixed it. Jim Carrey's in it playing his like crazy role. He's funny in it. Sonic is funny. It's like got some humor. My boys loved it. Like they ran around trying to be Sonic afterwards, and so it was a blast. They got to watch that one. And then the last one I had was Trolls, which I put kind of towards the bottom of the list because it had a huge amount of hype, and I think it was a little bit of a letdown for me personally, because I love the original Trolls. But I don't know if that was because I came in with such high expectations, because I think overall it kept to the good story arc and still was a solid movie. Sure. But do you have any to add to that? Did I miss any? Do you think any ones that you saw? Or
man, I'm sure there's some that I'm missing right now. I just honestly, for me, one of the shows, because I don't know about the movies, but one of the shows we really enjoyed as a family was a show called Just Add Magic. Have I talked about that on this already?
You have.
Okay, yeah. I have. Okay, yeah. It's okay. So yeah, Just Add Magic, just to reiterate, it's on Amazon Prime. Great show. And like I said, we watched it with the whole family. So everything from the 3-year-old up, like they were able to enjoy it on whatever level they understood. And it was still like really well done. So yeah, we really liked that a lot. Yeah, I mean, for us, I mean, the Trolls, yes, I dug Trolls, but really, man, I would say I'm trying to think of movies, and I can't think of any movies that are outside of the list that you just put as far as like family stuff we really dug into. I know the kids really liked Magic Camp on Disney Plus. But
Yep.
it's also because my son's got really into magic, but I haven't been able to sit and watch that because both times they've sat and watched Magic Camp, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna watch it with you. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we will. And then it's like I have to work or something. And so I
Ugh.
miss it. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's one of those that I haven't got to do. And then my son and I watched Star Wars, the episode 4 for the first time. So
Okay.
that was a big deal
Oh,
for us.
nice.
So yeah, I guess for him this year we did Star Wars episode 4, so the first Star Wars, and the first movie of Harry Potter because we finished that book.
Okay.
So
Oh, great.
those are
Excellent.
really big events for our family. I cannot for the life of me think of any movie outside of that off the top of my head now. But I will say there are some shows, and I want to talk about some of these shows too in the future too, because I want to start,
Yep.
and I think we've talked about this, but in the future, next season, next year, I want to start having some segments that are kind of talking about some, like keeping you guys informed on some of this entertainment and what it means to us and how we can kind of share it between our family. So yeah, I'm gonna go back and check my list, and we're gonna share some of these coming up on the episodes coming up.
Yeah, and a little teaser to that kind of stuff. What I'm looking to do in 2021 is pull out some of the maybe lesser known movies, maybe lesser known content or books or things, and kind of bring it to our audience. And if you're listening and you have things that come to mind, like hit us up on the Instagram, on YouTube, wherever you hear us at, and wherever you see us at. Let us know of those things, because we definitely want to keep this is to inform other dads, not just you and I. But this is to kind of help shape that. But one thing that I watched over the Christmas break, which I absolutely love, was on Netflix, and it's called Klaus, and it's spelled Klaus.
Yep.
And it's an excellent movie, a really cool way to tell a Christmas story in a unique way. Animation is really cool. It kept my kids' attention. And I was like riveted because I loved the animation and the storytelling. It was funny. It was, had some drama in it. So that was, highly recommend for the Christmas season. I don't think that came out this year. I think it was like a year. I think it was 2019.
Yeah, because we watched it last year. We didn't watch it,
but it was
year,
excellent. It was the first time that we saw it, and it was great. So stuff like that is why I want to come out, where it's maybe not the big headline movies, like a Trolls or something like that. But that's one thing we're excited about for season 2, right? Like we have some ideas of little segments that we're going to start, and some different ways to get information out to you guys. So we can start getting some more engagement with you, and start listening and hearing back from you, to be honest, and hearing things that you guys want to talk about. I'm sure there's subjects that we don't cover that we totally can cover on this, not as the expert, but we can bring in experts if we need to. We can bring in other people to talk about stuff. We're here to bring dads together. We talk about sports and film and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, we're dads, and we want to make sure that we get information, tips, whatever it is, or just support, or just be like, dads, we made it through 2020, like we're now getting into 2021, whatever it takes,
And we're here learning with you guys for sure, because like if we don't already know it, then we are going to find someone who knows it, and we are going to learn right alongside you guys. So that's 100% what our show has been from the beginning, and our attempt to do. So yes, that's what we're going to do in 2021. Steven, I thought of one more show. More show. Have I talked about Tiny World?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. I know you don't pay attention either when we talk, so this is going to perfect. If I have talked about it, sorry, but whatever. I'm going to talk about it. Tiny World. It's on Apple TV Plus, right? The Apple TV app.
Oh,
so
I saw a trailer for that last week.
Okay, can I tell you?
It's good.
It is phenomenal. It is so good. I know I've used that word a couple times on a couple projects so far, but I'm telling you, this was one of those shows that, like, if you like anything nature, if you like any kind of like nature shows, it is awesome. They literally are taking, they're showing you like, Safari and like all these big other shows that are, Planet Earth, those type of movies and things. This show is taking the small world, the tiny creatures, the small bugs, whatever else it is, and it is venturing into those worlds and making them large, making them dramatic. And the shots are so beautiful that I look at them and go, how did they do that? And like, I'm in the industry and I'm going, how did they do?
Is it like when Planet Earth first came out and you were just kind of like, What?
What?
Where?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Like I remember
Very,
being so confused when that came out.
very similar, very similar, except you'll look at these shots, same thing. Yes, you have the same, man, here's what's great about it. Paul Rudd, went to my high school. I don't know if I mentioned that. No, but Paul Rudd is the narrator, and that's not why I like it. But
Okay.
here's the irony of that: Paul Rudd in the MCU as Ant-Man. So who better to be narrating a show about a tiny world and tiny creatures? I'm
Yeah.
saying
As the
it's
world
all together.
turns.
Yes,
Yeah.
but really, it's one of those things that like my wife and I we turned it on thinking like, okay, we'll turn this on for the kids. It's
Right.
friendly. It's like friendly for everybody. You're not seeing anybody get eaten or destroyed or whatever like you are with some of the
Right.
shows that you're kind of like, kids, don't look. Oh, sorry.
Right.
Oh well, the lion's got to eat. That kind of thing.
Right.
I know you like gazelles, but yeah. So I mean, there's nothing like that is like too
Okay.
awful for the kids. And actually, there's a lot of really fun storytelling in it that is
Yeah.
really like, it's not just like you're just watching animals. You're watching a story being told, and it's being told in a fun way. They're using
Cool.
music and sound and stuff in a way that is just like really, really enhancing the story.
Yeah.
It's great. And it's one of those things like we turn it on and we're watching it kind of like passively watching it with the kids. And the next thing you know, my wife and I are both like, what? I didn't know that. Wow. Oh, wow. What did you know that? No. What? Oh,
Right.
wow.
Right.
So I mean, it's like it's super educational because you're learning stuff that you had no idea that was even going on. But it's also just so entertaining and so well done. So yes, that's of the projects we were talking about and the content we're talking about. That is on our list is way up there as a family. We very much enjoyed that. So okay, wait. Before you get out of here, last thing. We talk about sports and we try, and every time we're doing an episode, we go, look, I wish we had a few more minutes to talk about sports.
I know.
Okay. So we got a list of a couple of people we want to talk about for the year.
Yeah.
Let's touch on that, but I got a really important question for you.
Okay.
Are the Cowboys making it to the playoffs this year?
I honestly, like I'm obviously a huge fan, like Cowboys ride or die kind of thing. But I just hope they don't.
You hope they don't?
I hope they don't.
What? Why?
And it's because they've been living in this like medium mediocrity for so long that it's almost, it's like a false win. You know what I mean? It's like
it's a really
they're gonna lose in the first, right? I mean, it's like saying, like it's like the Eastern Conference in the NBA, where it's kind of like for most of the year, like the recent years, it's like whoever comes out of the West is going to win. And so it's like no one really believes that anyone that's coming out of the NFC East is going to win a championship.
But you still don't want to see.
I personally, I just don't think so. No, I love their players. And I'm really sad for Dak. Like, man, what a crazy like bet on yourself and then get injured. Like, like
you guys are about to lose Kellen Moore too to Boise State.
Oh, okay.
He's up like for the head coaching job up there.
We actually have a mutual friend that is close to the coach of the Cowboys, and nothing against him personally by any stretch.
Sure.
But it just has not been a great year. It's with all the expectations coming in. I think Dak had covered up a lot of what was really happening.
Sure.
By having just a phenomenal year, like having just breaking all kinds of records or leading the NFL and whatever. And then it was, it's like, it's hard to say because I like Ezekiel Elliott as a running back. I like CeeDee Lamb as a wide receiver, is a great pick. I know this is a super long answer, but I just don't think I feel like it's better that they don't. I'm also a Warriors fan. So like for me, I'm like, it's better that they don't make the playoffs this year so that they can really work on grooming and working with the team and building that foundation. And then when they get Clay back next year, they'll be that much better because they have the James Wiseman, their center is phenomenal.
They've got two Jayhawks, right?
Yeah, to me, James Wiseman, I think, is going to be better than Joel Embiid.
Whoa. Okay.
I know. That's like but he could be. Now it's all like all that potential stuff. But I also, Andrew Wiggins hasn't been like, he's improved the last couple games. But the first two kind of games were kind of a little rough.
Sure. Well, Wiggins is. I will always be a fan of Wiggins because he came out of KU. But I will say,
Right.
when he was at KU and then went out in the draft, I thought, what, why? He could definitely use another year. To be fair, I thought Embiid could use another year.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember back when Wiggins was picked first to the Cavaliers, and then he had been there for what, like a couple weeks or something, maybe a month, and then he got shipped out. Yeah. And I've always 100% thought that never made any sense to me. I mean, like in the moment, it never made any sense because Wiggins was coming with, and he maybe wasn't there offensively always, but defensively he was great. And I thought, how great would that be for LeBron to have somebody on the floor in the Cavaliers that he can worry about defense. LeBron can just worry about offense. And then like they can, he doesn't have to play as much defense. And because that was at the time, that was the thing the Cavaliers were struggling with. Right. All offense, no defense.
Yep.
And but if you remember, Andrew Wiggins was constantly being compared to being the next LeBron.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that when he was drafted, LeBron was like, nope, get out of here. Like, I don't want the mini me.
Could be, yeah.
Here. I don't feel like mentoring mini me right now. So anyway.
He's like, I still have like 15 years left to play or whatever crazy amount he's going to play.
So that was always my thought process.
Yeah.
This is us shooting the stuff here off topic, obviously. I mean, it's still sports, but we don't get to do this very much on the show.
I know.
I'm sure we've lost a lot of listeners right now. I'm so sorry. But let's do this. Let's hit this list here. I love this list you put together. It was the sports person of the year.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about 2020, right? It's been a crazy year. There's been so much has happened, but we've had sports. For a long time, we didn't have sports. But when it came back, it was one of those things like that it just, I don't know about all of you, but for Steven and I, when sports came back, it was like kind of like this breath of fresh air. Like, okay, not that everything's back to normal, because it definitely isn't. But to be able to turn on the TV and like see baseball or see football or see basketball or see any of these things. Like, honestly, I was watching cornhole games and arm wrestling because like that's the only sports it was on. I was like, I need sports. And then I'm watching wrestling, like arm wrestling competitions.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay.
I was watching 2K basketball league, like the esports league. Yeah. And I was like full on listening, engaged.
Yeah. So, but I will say, that being said, this is also 2020. You got to remember, right before all this stuff hit, my Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
big year.
Excuse me, huge. But think about it. I haven't been in Kansas City to celebrate for the Royals winning the World Series or the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. Like I wasn't sure if that was ever going to happen in my lifetime. Yeah. Now it's happened. Now I'm not in Kansas City for it to happen. And now that we're here, and then the two LA teams win, the Lakers and then the Dodgers, like back to back.
Yes.
There are no parades here either.
No parades.
So like the teams that I've rooted for my whole life win, and there's parades, right? Can't go to those. Those are too far away.
Right.
The teams that are here, that are local, that my kids can go experience what it's like to be in a championship parade and see it. Not happening because it's the year that it's been.
It is.
So
I know.
So yeah, let's talk about the Sportsman Awards. This is by far has been a nuts, off the wall, nutty year for sports. As we're talking about this now, college bowl games being canceled left and right because of COVID issues. I mean, obviously it's very serious stuff, but sports and having the ability to root for these teams and to watch people, compete, and it has been really great for someone like me, for someone like you, Steven, who, this is our stress relief. This is our thing that we love. So anyway. Go for it. Take it away.
Well, so these are the activist athletes. So these aren't necessarily the MVPs of their leagues, but these won the Activist Athletes Awards. And Naomi Osaka, she was the U.S. Open champion. She actually wore a different face mask each of her 7 matches, honoring 7 Black victims of racial injustice and police brutality, to make people start talking. This was the big year. Obviously of Black Lives Matter and a lot of other things going on. just in general in the US, a lot of social justice really coming to the forefront. And some of these athletes really played a big role. Like another one was Breanna Stewart. So she's Seattle Storm, WNBA Finals MVP. Like these are not just like your lower level players, but she played an integral role over the summer in the ongoing fight against racism. She regularly attended protests, successfully lobbying the league to include Black Lives Matter on the court in the bubble. This is one of those things that they don't talk about much, but I know in the NBA they had, Black Lives Matter and they wore the jerseys and stuff, but it was actually the WNBA that really pushed hard and started that. They were really the catalyst in that WNBA, NBA world. And they really took a stand, and it was people like Breanna Stewart that really stood in the gap and really said, no, this is what we're going to do. And they were like willing to not play a season. Some of them even didn't play. Some WNBA players didn't play and committed their full-time efforts to, Black Lives Matter or other social justice issues. And it was just incredible to watch, to be honest.
And am I right in thinking, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that before the Milwaukee Bucks walked off and decided they weren't going to come out and play the playoff game, right? Which was a huge protest, right? And
yes,
I'm pretty sure it was right before that, wasn't it? The WNBA was protesting or striking or deciding not to play right before the NBA had even actually done that, right? So again, just like you're talking about, the WNBA was ahead of the game on saying like, look, we need to give a voice to the voiceless. And I mean, I know that WNBA a lot of times does not get the same recognition. It's even sometimes hard to find the games on TV, but this is an entire league and a full league that said like, look, we're on board and we are a professional league and we are on board and we are here and we're making our voice heard. That helped influence the NBA and other leagues around the country really to say like, look, if they can do it, we can do it. Why can't we do this? Right. And whatever your political beliefs are, 100%, this podcast, we are dads that are teaching our children that acceptance is the way to go, right? Accepting everyone and highlighting the differences, not whitewashing, I don't know if that's the right term. It's probably the wrong term, but not washing and saying like, I'm colorblind and I can't see this. And I know we didn't get to talk about this a lot this summer because that was in that midst of like, all of this was happening. And Steven and I also were just like completely trying, either working or dadding or whatever was full time. And we weren't able to really like sit and talk about this subject, but highlighting these players that have been so important and so integral to this moment in our history that really not only opened up a lot of people's eyes, but it opened up my eyes. And I'm sure it opened up your eyes too, to things that you just thought you were like, I thought I knew this already and I didn't. And there's so much more I didn't know and I learned so much. But yeah, 100% these athletes and others around the country that have been able to show acceptance and show like, look, we are all inclusive. We are, and not inclusive when we want to be, like we are all inclusive no matter what. This is how Steven and I are dadding. Okay. We are dadding, we are parenting in a way where we're telling our children and we're teaching our children that this is a world where everyone is involved and everyone's included. And that is us. That is the way we do it. I'm pretty sure I'm okay to speak for you on this too, but please add to it if you want to. But yeah, we are, we talked earlier about the questions and who you love and mentor and stuff. This is something that you can talk to your kids about and say like, look, this is important. If it's through sports, these athletes did it, if through politics, whatever it may be, but giving those role models to the children has been so important, and being able to show highlight these sports, these athletes, and say like, look what they've done, they can do this. It becomes, the norm in the future. And then you just understand that like, this was a dark time. This was a time that people didn't understand. Now we've been able to move past it. And I don't know if we'll ever move past it, but we'll always move forward is the goal, right? To always step forward and always be better. So yeah, I mean, these are amazing athletes. I know there's a couple more on the list. But yeah, I just want to throw that out there.
The next couple are your Chiefs, man. The Chiefs, I'm going to butcher their name, or the first one is, I think it's Laurent Duvernay Tardif.
Laurent Duvernay Tardif.
Okay. The Chiefs
Duvernay
starting.
Tardif.
He's the right guard starting for the Chiefs. He helped lead the
Yes.
franchise, obviously, to the first Super Bowl, which you talked about, in 50 years before returning home to Canada. He actually still remains there. He opted out of the season to put his medical doctorate to good use. So he actually has a doctorate, and he's working on the front lines of the pandemic at a long-term care facility. And this is what I was talking about, where there are athletes that, again, these are not backups that are like, whatever, like I don't make that much money, I'm just going to commit my time to here. These are actual, like, they start on these teams, they won championships, and they decided at the apex of their career, the apex of their team's success, they're going to go do this. They feel so compelled to do that. And it's been amazing to watch. And the next one is Patrick Mahomes. I know how to say his name, obviously.
Well, but before you go on
Go
Patrick Mahomes, Laurent, see, now I've messed it up, but Duvernay Tardif, he actually is the first ever NFL player to actually have a medical doctorate actively in the NFL. So of all the years the NFL's been around, there's never been a doctor. There's been doctors from PhD, like doctors, right?
Sure.
Doctorals. I don't know how to say that. I'm not a doctor. But he's the first ever medical doctor to actively, be in the NFL. So he actually applied to have doctor put on his jersey.
Okay.
This in the last year. Yeah, but they actually denied it. Not only is his name already super long, right? I don't know how it's going to fit there, but they also didn't want to put doctor on the back of it. So yes, unfortunately he got denied from it, but yes, went up to Canada. He's been up there, and yes, he's been on the front lines helping out. And as much as a Chiefs fan where I'm bummed that he's not here helping us, it makes me incredibly proud to know that one of our players is up there doing his best to help others. So yeah, love it.
For sure. Okay. Yeah. And then Patrick Mahomes is obviously the MVP of the Super Bowl. Not only instrumental in pushing the league forward to recognize the Black Lives Matter movement back over the summer, but he also helped fund the voting machines that allowed Arrowhead Stadium, which is where the Chiefs play, to become a polling location. And that's actually what these last two athletes are combined. The next one is LeBron James. They call him like the elder statesman of the group. I mean, he's like in his 17th, 18th season in the NBA. He won his fourth title this past year with the Lakers, if you didn't already know that. He launched More Than a Vote, and that's an organization dedicated to fighting voter suppression and encouraging voter education. So actually both those, Patrick Mahomes and LeBron James, were instrumental in getting a lot of the NBA arenas, a lot of the NFL stadiums become polling locations, because that was one of the things, is that with COVID, there was no one really knew like which polling stations were going to be available. Some of the volunteers weren't able to do it because of COVID restrictions, or, they were older and in that demographic. And so they actually pushed for these big stadiums and big arenas. Hey, why don't we, that was part of the negotiation when the Bucks started that, like, we're stopping the season. That was a big thing in the negotiations to start back again. A handful of days later, was that these these owners basically were said, okay, we're going to take these arenas and we're going to turn them into polling locations so we can offer more places for voters to vote, because it was this voter suppression was another big subject, obviously, with our big election in November. So that's the highlight of just 5 of them. Obviously there's plenty of other athletes, other obviously humans that, that aren't athletes, that have done amazing things in 2020. But I know we talk about sports, and I just wanted to highlight some of those as, 2020 overall has been a very difficult year. It's been a very unpredictable year. We're still dealing with COVID, even though there's a vaccine out there. We're still very much in the thick of it right now. But these are kind of shining lights that you can look at. Hey, this is humanity at its best, right? This is, people putting aside massive careers that make millions of dollars to go support these things, because that's the stuff that really matters. That's the stuff when we talk about 2021 goals or 2021 dreams or things like that. Those are the things that really matter. You know what I mean? Those are the things that when you look back on your year, when you reflect on 2020, the things that really meant something to you, that's the good part of life, right? That's the good stuff of, like, you and I starting this podcast, starting to go through things and really working a lot of stuff out between you and I as we build this. But really, I've learned so much on this podcast. from you, from other people that we've interviewed. It's been amazing. And I hope that other dads out there and other listeners have also received information that's been helpful to them, because that's the whole point of this.
Yeah. I mean, you could say I've mentored you in a way. All right. I'm not letting that go. No, I absolutely. And, you know, on another note too, I mean, we're talking about those athletes. I watched this really cool video of, we were talking about voting and Patrick Mahomes and LeBron doing that with the voters. There was a video that I saw of the local news in Kansas City where someone had their Chiefs jersey on and they had just went into Arrowhead Stadium for the first time. And the first time they went there wasn't for a game. It was to vote. So they got to go into Arrowhead Stadium, got to walk on the field, got to be a part of it, got to vote and then come out. And I remember he had like tears in his eyes because he was so excited to be in Arrowhead Stadium his whole life. And keep in mind, like, this is a man who had been a lifelong Chiefs fan his entire life. Just his team, loved them, and also had never voted before. So this man, for the first time, who was never never been able to afford a ticket to go see a Chiefs game, was able to vote for the first time in his life in his Chiefs jersey in the Chiefs Stadium, right, in Arrowhead Stadium, and have this experience and just have this all over. And it's all due to, you know, the work that people like Patrick Mahomes and LeBron James and like all these people that are doing. So, you know, we think about this as like big picture, but you got to remember too that each individual is affected in their own personal experience in their own personal way. And so, yes, that's a wonderful thing. The other part of it too is, you know, talking about that, and we're talking about personal experiences. Steven and I, this show, we have our personal experience. We have our experiences that we bring to the show for you. This has been a wonderful first season. It's been a trying first season. It's been challenging. We've been trying to put something together for you guys and try to make it. We're going to continue to grow, and we're gonna take some time, reevaluate it, figure out what we want to do moving forward to see if there's any changes we want to make. If you guys have suggestions, send us notes, emails, whatever. You can send us emails at itsadaddthingpodcast@gmail.com. You can also connect us to all of the different social medias. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And again, if there's anything you want to see, anything you want to know about, any questions you have, ask away. We will make an entire show around that question, because we are not here for us. We are here for you guys. So yes, reach out to us. We are here for us dads. We're here for you dads. And we want to make sure whatever your experience is as a dad is the best it can possibly be. So we want to help you. We want to make sure you're having a wonderful life with your kids and being able to raise your children in a loving environment with acceptance and all the fun stuff that comes along with it, and all the stuff that is so challenging to us as a dad sometimes when you just need a break, right? When you just need the 5 minutes. So we are here for that too. We understand. And yes, Steven, thank you for sticking with me.
I wasn't sure where that was going to go.
I wasn't sure either. I don't know if that was what I meant to say. Thank you for sticking with me on 2020, like throughout 2020. And thank you to all the audience out there. Again, all 5 of you, maybe 6 now,
who knows?
Sticking with us for 2020. And here's hoping to 2021 being a better year and us having a chance to be together again.
Yes, very well said. Yeah, thanks again for listening to It's a Dad Thing podcast.
All right, we'll see you next year.